The episode opens with the Enterprise stumbling across a Federation signal from a lost ship called the Janolan. Following it in, they find something that alerts them that the Sphere Builders have returned and... just kidding. Nobody cares about your adventures, Archer.
Could this be a Dyson sphere? Theory that an enormous hollow sphere could be constructed around a star. This would have the advantage of harnessing all the radiant energy of that star.
In actuality, Dyson sphere is the idea that an advanced species would need to collect all energy from a star by building a number of orbiting solar collectors. This is what's called a Dyson shell, an actual solid body with a surface meant for habitation and energy collection. There are numerous problems related to a Dyson shell, such that even Dyson himself had dismissed the idea. Perhaps the best is that the forces involved require such incredibly strong materials, and it would require assembling materials, construction, and manipulation on such a massive scale that it can be considered a bit of a paradox. Anyone with the ability to construct a Dyson shell and deal with such problems would be so advanced that they wouldn't need to. Ringworlds are more feasible as far as living space goes, though still far beyond even theoretical science, and I'm obviously talking Larry Niven here and not Halo. It kind of highlights the tech issue, in fact, when we see a crash ship on the surface with the surface damaged. That's like finding tank armor that's been severely dented by a hamster sneezing on it. Well, they soon track that ship and see where it's crashed with minimal power and life support, so Picard says to head there. So Enterprise approaches, and approaches, and approaches, and approaches, in your own time, and approaches. We're getting there. Let's just cut to the next scene. Good. Geordi, Worf, and Riker beam down and find someone incredibly creative and brilliant has locked the transporter into a diagnostic routine so that it wouldn't materialize until someone made it. And who else can that be but Scotty? He's got his arm in a sling there. Turns out he broke his humerus. That's the bone in your upper arm, when they crashed. Only he and Matt Franklin survived, but unfortunately for Franklin, he wasn't listed as a guest star, so his pattern is too degraded to save. Riker introduces himself and Geordi, and at the name Enterprise, Scotty quickly fills in the blanks. Of course! Kirk himself came out to rescue me! Kirk's dead. No, he ain't. You were there when he died. Big deal. People die all the time and come back. No, they don't. I did, with Ro, remember? That's different. And don't tell me I wasn't listed as dead either. Then there's all the times the Enterprise was blown up and came back. That's different because it never actually happened. I'm just saying. No, look, just because 2 out of 3 people surveyed die and come back doesn't mean it happens, so I'm still calling this a continuity error. Are you all a bunch of crybabies in this century? Scotty's a bit taken aback by the sight of Worf, but for some reason doesn't blink at Geordi, walking around with a mini car grill on his face. It's not as if they had visors back then, or else What's-Her-Name wouldn't have needed to fake that she wasn't blind when she had to go to the planet of the Fuglies, and they obviously don't look like glasses. Maybe he figures that Geordi takes them off whenever he transforms into Superman or something. So they beam over, and Scotty and Geordi talk a little engineering and about the Dyson sphere. Scotty's so pleased he hardly notices the blind guy keeps walking into his broken arm. Geordi listens and is amazed at his ingenuity and genius, and shows it by prodding his broken arm a bit more. Scotty, however, doesn't take it as much as a compliment because he thinks of how he let down poor Franklin. Geordi's quiet, then decides to pick up his spirits by whacking his broken arm good and hard before taking him to sickbay. We love LaForge because he's so sensitive a man, you see. In sickbay, Crusher finally takes care of his broken arm, and he takes the opportunity to hit on her, something McCoy had never put up with from him. Picard shows up, intrigued at this man, and says he'd love to hear some stories. And oh yeah, Scotty's got stories to tell. Geordi heads down to engineering, and Scotty wants to come, but Crusher orders him to go rest, because that's what you tell old people, after all. He gets pawned off on some ensign who assigns him to some guest quarters, and Scotty starts telling stories, much to the ensign's dismay. He soon makes it clear he doesn't want to listen and wants to leave. Did I ever tell you about the little pipsqueaks that would get killed all the time by the slime monsters, eh? Yeah, looks like you little shite. If you can't tell, the running theme is much the same as that of one of our previous episodes we've reviewed, the neutral zone. The important difference this time, though, is that we are presented with an actual character rather than three archetypes. This helps tremendously because the episode not only uses this to help us really focus on Scotty, who, when you come to think of it, didn't get that much attention in the old show as he wasn't part of the big three, but it works.
Do you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Bitch, cry, and act like asses. We have one person trying to come to terms with the predicament. And it's all the more emphasized when he sits there, alone, unwanted. With that, it's no surprise that the next thing he does is head down to engineering. That's Scotty, where he belongs no matter what the era, a chance to maybe bury himself in this new technology and forget about it all. Geordi at first says they can manage, but Scotty points to his vast experience that he can still be of use. Because again, it's Scotty, and in engineering, there's nothing Scotty can't do, except possibly a sit-up. Unfortunately, he keeps spotting things that aren't really problems, distracting LaForge, and then telling more stories. Did I ever tell you about the time with the Tribbles, when I got into a bar fight with a bunch of Klingons? I swear to your transporter chief and that Worf fellow were there. I know I saw him. You can easily see both sides of the situation. Geordi doesn't exactly want to be disrespectful. You can see based on some of his earlier behavior that he has a genuine respect for Scotty's genius when it comes to improvisation and problem solving. But right now, he's just someone distracting him from what he needs to do. Scotty, of course, is pissed off because he's being kicked out of his only sanctuary, essentially being told that he doesn't belong in this room anymore. So Scotty heads off to 10 Forward for a good stiff drink. He orders the scotch. At least he can rest assured that that will be the same. Then he drinks it. And it ain't the same. If a Scotsman can't count on scotch, then what kind of anchor can he find in the world, eh? Data shows up and explains about synthahol and gives him a bottle of some genuine liquor that Guinan has. In a nice throwback, he repeats Scotty's bit from TOS.
It is green.
So, after the commercial, Scotty has gone from bad pissed to good pissed and heads to the holodeck, demanding to see the bridge of his Enterprise. He goes in and toasts the old crew and is soon joined by Picard. The two reminisce about their firsts. Picard's
half in the back.
Chief engineer. Showing through here is Scotty's realization that engineering isn't his sanctuary anymore because it's not his engineering. It's not his time. And all he has left are old stories. Did I ever tell you about the time I killed a zombie with a cricket bat? So later, Picard tells Geordi that they should get the data from the Janolan, since it has done some pretty thorough scans, and that Scotty would be very qualified to assist. He asks Geordi to volunteer to do it with him, which was a bit I liked. It made it clear what Picard's intentions are. He wants Scotty to feel needed, but he also doesn't want it to look like they're all feeling sorry for him, that he's got to force somebody to go along with him. Geordi, of course, volunteers without reservation, because he doesn't actually dislike Scotty. It was just an issue of trying to get things done when they needed to get done. While they're over there, he treats Scotty with appropriate respect for his ingenuity and skill. Meanwhile, Data and Riker have found the Dyson Sphere's sphincter and accidentally get sucked in. It also really screws up the power system, and they're in danger of crashing into the sun. Picard's decided to try to orbit it, ordering port thrusters forward with starboard thrusters aft, turning the ship to starboard, which would actually be useful if it were a car, but seeing as how it's in space, it should just move forward sideways now. But inertia decides to be generous and lets them slip into orbit anyway. Elsewhere, Scotty and Geordi need to get some more equipment from Enterprise, but discover it's gone. Geordi figures the only option is to somehow get this old bucket flying again, leading to Scotty falling right back into the old routine of histrionics on its impossibility before making it happen. You know how it works. Scotty, there's a light bulb burned out in the hallway. You have someone take care of it? Are you daft, man? It'll take 4 men, 12 hours just to find the bloody ladder. And so with that out of the way, he gets to work making it happen. Wow, so the only thing stopping him and Franklin from escaping before is the contents of a couple of small toolboxes? Those things really can do everything. Enterprise is in more trouble because even though some of the stuff is back up, the sun is now going nuts and they risk being destroyed unless they can somehow escape. Scotty comes up with a crazy plan. They'll trick the door